Before we carve the turkey, Natalie said, rising from her chair with a smile so polished it could have won awards. There's something we need to say. The room went silent. Forks froze midair. My gut clenched. I knew that tone. It was the same rehearsed voice she used when she got me grounded at 14 for a party I didn't even attend. Everyone watched her like she was giving a toast. In a way, she was. We had a family vote, she continued, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. And we've decided you're not family anymore. At first, I thought I'd misheard. But then came the clapping. My cousin Laura whooped like she was at a concert. Uncle Mitch raised his wine glass in a smug toast. My own mother laughed and said, "Well, someone had to say it." My father didn't even look at me. Just muttered, "It's probably for the best," and took a long sip of beer. I sat motionless, my eyes fixed on my plate. The stuffing was cold now, but my blood boiled. All those years. All the late-night Venmo requests. All the bills I covered. The favors I didn't ask to do, but did anyway, because I thought it mattered. Because I thought I did. "Wow," I said, pushing my chair back slowly, letting it creak. "You guys actually rehearsed this?" Natalie flashed her teeth. "You've been toxic for years. We're just finally done pretending. You're not family," my mother added nonchalantly, reaching for the cranberry sauce like she was passing salt. "It's unanimous." I looked around the table. Not one person spoke up. Not one face cracked. "Good," I said quietly. Then I reached into my bag. I figured this might happen. I placed a thick folder in the center of the table. The thunk it made echoed through the room. For the first time, the laughter stopped. Natalie blinked, uncertain. "What is that?" I smiled and leaned back in my chair. "Why don't you find out?" She snatched the folder with that same smug smirk she always wore when she thought she was winning. She flipped the first page, and her smile vanished. Her eyes darted across the page, then the next, then the next. Her face turned pale. And then she screamed. A sharp, guttural sound, raw and furious. Her chair screeched backward and crashed to the floor as she bolted upright, slamming the folder shut like it burned her. "You monster!" She turned to me, fists clenched, lips trembling. "You're a twisted freak!" Gasps rippled through the room. Joel, her husband, reached for the folder and flipped it open. His brows furrowed deeper with every line he read. "Is this?" he stammered, looking up. I nodded. "It's all real. Every word. Every receipt. Every screenshot." The table went dead silent. You could hear the clink of a fork in the kitchen behind us. My mother's mouth opened, then closed again. Like a fish gasping for air. "You were so sure I wouldn't fight back," I said, rising from my seat. "So sure I'd stay quiet. The doormat. The cash cow. But guess what?" I leaned over the table, locking eyes with Natalie. "Your little show? It's over." And before anyone could respond, before Joel could ask what else was in that folder, before Laura could pretend she hadn't clapped, before my mother could conjure a guilt-laced excuse, I looked at them all and said calmly, clearly, "But before I tell you what's in those pages, let me tell you how we got here." I wasn't born the family disappointment. That took years. Natalie was the star from the beginning. Blonde hair, big smile, straight A's, she knew how to perform, how to light up a room. I was the quiet one. The reader. The one who didn't need attention, and they hated that. They took my silence as weakness, as emptiness, like I was nothing but background noise in their world of pageants and PTA meetings. I moved out at 19. Paid for college myself, worked 2 jobs, didn't ask for help. Meanwhile, Natalie flunked out of 2 majors, flew to Europe to find herself, and came home with a vague accent and Joel, the human equivalent of a LinkedIn profile in a blazer. The wedding? Half paid by me. My parents couldn't afford it, but somehow they managed a 2-week cruise right after. I didn't complain. I never did. Even when they joked about me being the family accountant. Even when I wired money for Dad's dental surgery, or sent cash when Mom said the heat bill was overdue. Even when I paid part of Laura's tuition when her scholarship didn't come through. They always said, "Thank you." But it came with that tone. The one that said, "Of course you'd help. You don't have a family of your own." And maybe that's what did it. I'm single. No kids, no drama, just me, my work, and my dog. And to them, that meant I had no real problems. No real stress. Which made me the perfect financial fallback. Natalie, especially, treated me like her personal safety net. When Joel lost his job, I got the first call. Just a small loan. When her car broke down. "You make 6 figures, what's $2,000? When her kid needed therapy, insurance wouldn't cover? Guess who paid? Every time. Always. Because I told myself it was family. I told myself I was doing the right thing, that they'd appreciate it, that one day it would all balance out. But helping turned into expectation. Expectation turned into demand. It started with the passive-aggressive jokes. "Oh, you brought wine? Must be nice to afford good wine. Of course you're early, you don't have kids to worry about. I wish I could work late every night, and avoid my husband too." Then it got uglier. "You're so cold. Maybe that's why you're still alone. You don't know what real stress is, you don't have a real life. You're just bitter that no one needs you." Except they did need me. Constantly. Quietly. Behind closed doors. Then one day came the text. "Natalie. Hey, can you co-sign for a small business loan? Joel and I want to start a wellness cafe." Me. "No." Natalie. "Wow. Really?" Then silence. For 3 months after that, I got the cold shoulder. Mom stopped calling. Dad's replies turned to one-word texts. I wasn't invited to the last family dinner. Natalie blocked me on Instagram after posting a story about cutting out toxic people. But I didn't sulk. I didn't beg. Instead, I started collecting. Not out of spite. Just records. Screenshots. Transfers. Emails. Dates. Receipts. I'm not stupid. I've always been good with data. And in 5 years alone, I'd sent over $78,000 to various family members. $78,000. $8,000 for Joel's rehab. $2,300 for Natalie's emergency dental work, turned out to be elective veneers. $1,500 for Dad's back surgery. $12,000 for Mom's credit card debt. $6,000 for Laura's college move-in costs. $4,500 for a family emergency that ended up being a trip to Cabo. Not once did anyone offer to pay me back. Not even pretend to. They just took. And when I finally said no, I was the problem. So I built the folder. Inside were every bank transfer, every email asking for money, every "thanks sis" with that dead smile emoji. Screenshots of Natalie calling me a cash cow in a private comment thread. Even a full timeline of every major expense I covered, right down to the hotel receipt used on a credit card I paid off for a trip Natalie said was a work retreat. There were even Facebook posts where they mocked me. One of them called me the silent sucker. I still don't know if they meant to post it publicly or forgot to switch to close friends. And yes, I included the screenshots of Natalie telling her friend I was manipulative for saying no to the loan. Every page told a story. Not of generosity, but of expectation. Of entitlement. And that brings us to Thanksgiving. That folder? That scream? Natalie didn't just see her manipulation exposed. She saw it documented. Systematically dismantled. Fact by fact. Page by page. Joel stared at a line that said, $4,200 for Natalie's credit card, used at a hotel in Santa Monica with someone named Alyssa. He looked up. "What is this?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Because for the first time, I wasn't defending myself. I wasn't explaining. I was just showing them the truth. "You kept records?" my mother asked, her voice trembling. I turned to her calm as ever. "You never remembered. So someone had to." Natalie stood there, pale and shaking. "This is a violation," she spat. "You had no right to." "No right?" I repeated, standing slowly. "You just stood up and declared me not family. You all clapped. And now you're upset that I came prepared?" Joel flipped another page. "What's this about Santa Monica?" he asked. "Why were you at a hotel for 3 nights on my credit card?" Natalie's head snapped toward him. "Don't start. Who's Alyssa?" Silence. "Can we all just calm down?" my mom interrupted. "Let's be reasonable." "Sure," I said. "Let's talk about the time you called me a parasite while cashing my check." "That's not fair," she whispered. "We were under stress." "No. I was under stress. And I bailed you out every time. And the one time I say no, I'm the enemy?" My dad, silent until now, finally spoke. "You're making this bigger than it is." I turned to him. And my voice dropped. Cold. Controlled. "You let them do this to me for years. You knew. You saw it. You heard it. And you let it happen. Because it was easier than standing up to them." He didn't deny it. Natalie slammed her hand on the table. "You're just bitter no one needs you anymore." "Wrong," I said, stepping forward. "I'm not bitter. I'm done." She laughed bitterly. "You're pathetic. This? A folder? Screenshots? You think this makes you the victim?" "No," I said. "It makes me free. You chose to help. You didn't have to. And yet, I replied, you expected it every time. Until it wasn't help anymore. It was duty. You don't get to play the martyr, she shouted. And you don't get to play the victim, I said, finally letting the fire in my chest rise to the surface. You didn't want a sibling. You wanted a wallet with legs. Joel stood now, still holding the folder. Is this true? He asked her. All of this? Natalie opened her mouth, but nothing came out. No fake tears. No spin. Just silence. For the first time in our entire lives, she had nothing left to say. Joel was still staring at the folder when I sat back down. His fingers hovered above a page he hadn't flipped yet, as though he already knew something and there would be a point of no return. The silence around the table wasn't awkward, it was surgical. Cold. Anticipatory. Like everyone knew the next word could shatter whatever thin illusion of control they thought they had. What is this? Joel finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The silence was my answer. I watched him read the next line, then the next. His eyebrows pulled together. Then his jaw clenched. His grip on the paper tightened. Who the hell is Alyssa? He said louder now, still not looking at anyone. Natalie, across the table, blinked like a deer in headlights. Joel, not now, she hissed. Oh, it's now, he snapped. You were at a hotel for 3 nights on my credit card. Santa Monica. Room service, spa charges. What exactly were you doing while I was watching our kid and applying for jobs? Her mouth opened, then closed. The silence screamed louder than any excuse she could have fabricated. Oh my God! Joel muttered. You let me beg your sister for money while you were out playing house with whoever the hell this is? Joel. My mother cut in, her voice high and trembling. Let's not do this here. Why not? He barked. This whole dinner has been a performance anyway. Natalie's composure cracked. She's lying. I leaned in calm. Tell him I'm lying. Go ahead. Tell him that I photoshopped the receipts. Tell him I fabricated the messages. Tell him you didn't call me a parasite. Tell him you didn't say I was a spineless piggy bank to your friends. Natalie's fists trembled on the table. You had no right. You had no shame, I said flatly. My father, who had remained stone still for most of the conversation, finally raised his eyes. You didn't need to embarrass everyone. I didn't, I replied. You did that yourselves. I just organized the evidence. My mother stood up now. Okay, stop. Everyone stop. Enough has been said. We've all made mistakes, but this is still family. You don't just abandon your family over money. I turned to her, the calm still sitting cold in my chest. Do you know how many times I covered for you? I asked. When the utilities were overdue. When you said the heat might get turned off. When Dad's insurance wouldn't cover his surgery. When Laura couldn't afford books. When Natalie needed therapy for her kid. I never hesitated. I never asked. I just gave. And when I stopped, when I dared to say no, you voted me out. My voice cracked, not from grief, but from clarity. From years of swallowing guilt and gaslighting. You didn't vote me out because I was cruel. You voted me out because I stopped being useful. That's not true, my mom said, stepping toward me. We were just overwhelmed. You laughed. I interrupted. You laughed when she said I wasn't family? I didn't mean. You raised a toast. She froze. And I let it go. I continued. But I'm not here to explain myself. Not anymore. Natalie's eyes darted toward the folder. You're a control freak, she hissed. You think this makes you righteous? You printed out our lives like a courtroom file. That's not healthy. That's psycho. And yet it's all true, I said. You're just bitter. You have no one. You're jealous. I smiled. Not cruelly. Just honestly. I'm not bitter. I'm not jealous. I'm done. Then I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the second envelope. The air shifted. My dad sighed, exhausted, defeated. What now? I tossed the envelope onto the table. Joel caught it before it slid off. He opened it slowly. Read the first line. His eyes widened. What is this? He whispered. I answered for him. Power of attorney for mom, revoked. Medical proxy, revoked. Emergency contact, removed. I've already signed everything. I am legally and emotionally no longer responsible for any of you. My mother gasped. You're cutting ties completely? Completely, I said. You're being selfish, she said, her voice cracking now. We made mistakes, but we're still your family. I looked her in the eye steady. No. You're not. She sobbed. For real this time. But I didn't reach for her. I didn't flinch. I stood up, grabbed my coat, and turned to leave. You think this makes you brave? Natalie shouted after me. You think walking away makes you powerful? You're pathetic. You'll come crawling back. I paused at the doorway. Looked over my shoulder. Not this time. Then I walked out. I didn't drive home immediately. I pulled off at the lake, the one Dad used to take me to when I was a kid. I sat by the water. No one called. No one asked for money. No one blamed me for anything. That night, I slept better than I had in years. The next morning, nothing. The day after that, still nothing. On the third day, the calls began. First Mom. A missed call. Then another. Then a voicemail. We were angry. But we're still your family. Come home. I didn't respond. Then came the text from Natalie. You don't even realize what you've done. Joel's filing for divorce. Are you happy now? You're insane. Something is really wrong with you. Dad texted too. You went too far. What you did was nuclear. Your mother is a wreck. Come fix this. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I rewrote my emergency contacts. Changed passwords. Froze every joint account. Blocked Natalie on everything. I started therapy. Real therapy. The kind where you stop asking, what's wrong with them? And start asking, why did I let it happen for so long? Then came Christmas. December 22nd, my phone buzzed. A photo from Mom. Their living room, decorated with stockings and an enormous empty spot where the presents would normally be. It doesn't feel the same without you. No apology. No ownership. Just guilt. Just manipulation. Wrapped in tinsel. I didn't reply. December 23rd, Natalie tried calling. Then she texted. Come by for Ellie. She misses you. 2 minutes later. Also, Mom and Dad are behind on the mortgage. The bank called. I thought you'd want to know. There it was. The ask? It always ended with the ask. Blocked. December 24th from Dad. Enough is enough. We need help. We're still your blood. That night, I sat by the fireplace with a glass of wine. No tree. No noise. No guilt. Just peace. In January, I got a call from an unknown number. I picked up. Is this Daniel? A man asked. Yes. My name is Mark. I'm calling on behalf of your father. He said you're the primary executor of the family trust. I revoked that 2 months ago. I said. Finalized by the attorney. I see. Mark said. They're in a bit of a bind. I'm not. I said. And I hung up. In February, I got a letter. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. Mom's. 3 pages. The first, regret. We never realized how much we lean on you. The second, guilt. Your father's health isn't good. Natalie is struggling. Ellie asks about you. The third, desperation. We're selling the house. We just need a little help. Then we'll never ask again. I sat with it. Let myself feel the pull. The shame. The ache. Then I folded it. Walked to the trash. Dropped it in. They weren't asking for reconciliation. They were asking for access. Access to the old me? The one who paid silently. Sacrificed silently. Suffered silently. That version of me is gone. And the most terrifying part for them? I'm doing just fine without them. Months passed. The messages eventually stopped. The calls dried up. The guilt tactics faded into static silence. There were no more half apologies laced with expectation, no more friendly check-ins that ended with bank account numbers, no more cries for help disguised as nostalgia. There was just stillness. And it was beautiful. I got a new job in a new city, bigger, better, with people who didn't look at me like I owed them something for breathing. I packed up my apartment, loaded everything into a truck, and didn't tell a single soul where I was going. I wasn't running. I was replanting. Somewhere fresh. Somewhere honest. No one said, you should stay close to home. No one asked, but what if something happens to them? No one guilted me with their health or their needs or their, what would grandma think? Faces. I just left. And when I arrived in the new city, I cried. Not from sadness, but because it was the first time in my adult life that I was doing something entirely, unapologetically for me. I started going for morning runs. Brewed coffee slowly. Read books without feeling like I was wasting time. Saw a dentist. Got a physical. Even started therapy, not because I was broken, but because I was free to heal on my own terms now. I reconnected with friends I hadn't spoken to in years. People I distanced myself from because family always, needed me. Funny how they all still remembered me as kind, as reliable, as someone worth talking to, not as an ATM. And none of them asked for a dime. Some of them had even seen my Reddit post. They reached out just to say, "We're proud of you." Not, "Can you help me?" Not, "You overreacted." Just support. Real, untainted, no strings attached support. Something I'd never known from the people who shared my DNA. I got a dog, another one. Now my old shepherd has company. I named the new one Chance. Not for them, but for me. For the life I was finally choosing. And slowly, I stopped checking my phone for missed calls. Stopped hesitating when I blocked another number. Stopped caring if I ever got another "We're still family" text. Because I already knew what it would say. They wouldn't apologize. Not really. They'd pivot. Strategize. Offer just enough sentiment to pull at the parts of me they used to manipulate. The caregiver. The quiet one. The one who always came through. But that version of me was gone. That bridge burned. By them. All I did was make sure no one rebuilt it. And when March came, something happened. I laughed. Not a polite chuckle. Not one of those half laughs you give when someone tells a story you've heard before. I laughed. Full belly. Tear-inducing. Because I was sitting in my apartment, watching a stupid sitcom, and for the first time in forever, I wasn't holding grief in one hand and obligation in the other. I was just laughing. I think that's when I realized I wasn't surviving anymore. I was living. One day, while sorting through my mail, I found another envelope. Handwritten. Familiar. My mother's handwriting again. I hesitated. Considered throwing it out unopened. But curiosity won. Inside? 3 words. "We're still family." No context. No apology. Just the same tired hook cast into the water, hoping I was still biting. I didn't feel anything. No anger. No sadness. Just nothing. And that nothing? That was everything. Because for the first time in my life, their words didn't own me. I threw the letter away and made dinner. Later that week, I went to the park with Chance and Vince, my neighbor and now friend. We walked by the lake, the air crisp, the city skyline catching the last of the golden hour light. Vince had heard parts of my story in pieces, never all at once. But that day, he asked, "Do you ever regret it?" I thought for a second. Then I said, "I regret not doing it sooner." He nodded. Sometimes the only way to heal is to walk away. I didn't walk away. I corrected gently. I walked out. With receipts. With boundaries. With clarity. And then I closed the door. He smiled. That's braver than most people ever get. And maybe it is. Because saying goodbye to people who never really saw you, that's hard. But it's harder to keep saying yes when every cell in your body is screaming no. They haven't changed. They didn't learn. Didn't reflect. Didn't wake up one day with sudden empathy. They got quiet. Then they got strategic. Then they got desperate. Then they got ugly again. And me? I got free. I found laughter. Sleep. Real rest. Uninterrupted peace. I stopped apologizing for being successful. For having boundaries. For needing space. I built a life where kindness isn't currency. Where being single isn't an invitation for exploitation. Where being the quiet one doesn't mean I can't speak loud when it matters. I built a life that doesn't depend on being needed, but on being known. By the right people. And if you're wondering if the door is still open, it's not. I didn't just shut it. I locked it, bricked it over, and planted wildflowers on the other side. Let them call that bitterness if they want. I call it peace. If there's one truth I've come to understand through this story, it's this: being born into a family does not guarantee belonging. We're taught early on that family is everything. That family comes first. That family means unconditional love. But what no one warns you about is how deeply the word family can be used as a weapon. How easily love can morph into control. How guilt can be painted to look like loyalty. My mistake wasn't that I gave too much. It was that I thought giving meant I mattered. For years, I mistook silence for strength. I thought enduring made me noble. That if I just kept helping, kept being the reliable one day they'd see me, not for what I could provide, but for who I actually was. But people who only know you as a resource will never recognize your humanity. They'll drain your time, your energy, your savings, and when you finally dare to say no, they won't say, "Thank you for everything." They'll say, "What's wrong with you?" Because in their minds, your kindness was never a gift, it was a subscription. And the second you cancel, they treat it like betrayal. That's not love. That's emotional dependency. That's exploitation in a Hallmark card envelope. The moment I realized that walking away didn't make me cruel, it made me whole, everything changed. I stopped trying to win their approval. I stopped hoping for apologies they weren't capable of giving. I stopped trying to shrink myself into the shape of the sister, the son, the cousin they wanted me to be. And in doing so, I became someone I actually recognized. I became someone I could respect. The world doesn't fall apart when you set boundaries. It rearranges. At first, you might feel like a villain. You'll hear words like cold, selfish, dramatic. You'll wonder if maybe they're right. If maybe you really were the problem. But then the silence comes. And it's not empty. It's cleansing. It's a space where you can finally hear yourself think, without someone's need pressing into your shoulders, without someone else's expectations whispering that your worth depends on how much you sacrifice. That silence is where your life starts. That's where healing begins. People will say, but they're still your family. As if blood outweighs betrayal. As if being born into the same household is reason enough to tolerate manipulation, disrespect, and financial abuse. What I've learned is this. Family is not defined by DNA. Family is defined by respect. By reciprocity. By effort. By choice. If they only remember you when they need something, that's not family. If your love is measured in dollars, that's not family. If they make you feel guilty for saying no, that's not family. That's conditioning. And once you unlearn it, you become unstoppable. There's no blueprint for cutting off your family. No checklist. No roadmap. Just a series of choices, each one harder than the last, until finally you choose yourself. And that's not a betrayal. That's a beginning. When I think back to that Thanksgiving table, the toasts, the laughter, the way they all clapped when they voted me out, I don't feel anger anymore. I feel clarity. They didn't see me then. They never did. But I do now. I see the version of me who kept giving until he had nothing left. I see the version who chose silence over confrontation to keep the peace that was never real. I see the version who smiled through dinners and deflections, thinking maybe love was just quieter for people like him. And now I see the version who finally said, enough. If you're reading this, and you're the quiet one too. The reliable one. The one they always call but never think. The one they guilt, not because you've done something wrong, but because you finally dared to do something right for yourself. Please hear this. You're not wrong. You're not heartless. You're not broken. You are allowed to outgrow people, even if they share your last name. You are allowed to build a life that prioritizes peace over proximity. And you are allowed to be free.